Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today my guest on from the LaGrange Police Department. I have the Chief of Public Safety, Lou Deckmar. Welcome to the show, Chief.
Oh, thank you, Alton. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and visit with you again. Well, it's been a while.
It has been a while. I think you've been avoiding me, Chief, have you?
No, I haven't been avoiding you.
Okay, all right. Well, you know, it's a pleasure to sit down with you, and because as you know, I started my career back in some years ago down in the police department. Never really had an opportunity to work with you under your administration, but I know that the police department is in a great shape. And that's a credit to you and all the fine young men and women that work there in that department. So from me, I just want to say thank you for all that they do and all that you do for our community.
Well, thank you, Alton, and you're absolutely right. I have a great team, men and women that every day do a very difficult job in a very professional way. So we always appreciate the opportunity to come here and showcase anything the police department is doing, and also to share with you and the community those programs that we think will lend themselves to further our public safety commitment.
Absolutely. And let me just mention, because you came in originally, you were the Chief of Police, and then later on in your career, you became the Chief of Public Safety. Talk about that and what that means to the community.
In 1995, I was hired as police chief and served in that position solely until 2005. And then City Council decided that they wanted to merge public safety under one head, and we have two independent departments. We have the police department and the fire department, but I serve as the Chief of Public Safety for both departments, police chief for the police department, and for the administrative and managerial aspects of the fire department, Chief of Public Safety. We have 4 deputy chiefs that serve in the role as operation chiefs, depending upon their assignment, and it seems to be working quite well.
Absolutely. And you know, you talked about 4 deputy chiefs. Just like the sheriff department, the police department is broken down into various departments. And talk a little bit about that and the different divisions that you have.
Sure. On the police side of the house, we have 3 divisions, and those are our Operations or Patrol Division, and the Administrative Services Division, and Support Division. And the Operations or Patrol Division is the one that primarily I think people are familiar with. The police officers that respond to calls for service, our traffic unit, canine unit, bike unit, all are housed under that division. We also have the training section that reports to the Operations Division Commander, because most of the training is geared towards those officers providing first line response to a variety of calls for service. We have the other 2 divisions, Support Division. They take care of what traditionally people think of records. Right. And those are warrants, those are police records, those are open records requests, and that is supervised by a captain. And then Administrative Division is commanded by a lieutenant who is responsible for investigations, the drug unit, evidence, warrants. So that's generally how the agency is broken up.
So it's a lot of division, and people I think a lot of times they just think the police just have one function, out writing tickets, and of course that they see from and hear from you that is not the case. And last week you had the opportunity to speak at the Chamber breakfast, early bird breakfast, and you talked about some awards that the Chamber is now sponsoring.
Well, we're in the process of setting that up for next, I guess it's September 10th.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Talk a little bit about the awards and the Chamber that's sponsoring this, and then we want to jump into something else that's very, very crucial to this community as well. Talk a little bit about that.
In the past, Alton, the recognition of officers and public safety officials that performed above and beyond the call of duty were handled individually by the agencies, either through some sort of a luncheon or banquet ceremony, award ceremony. And a couple of years ago, I was invited to Gwinnett County to speak at their awards presentation, and learned at that time that that was sponsored by the Chamber. And so the Gwinnett County Chamber of Commerce sponsors the Public Safety Award Ceremony. And it was very impressive, and it was a good opportunity for the community to share in the awards that recognize those public safety members that performed in many instances that either saved a life or precluded a bad situation from becoming significantly worse. So I came back and I met with chamber representatives, and they were very interested in maybe doing a similar program here. For about the last 18 months, they've been working with public safety officials from West Point, Hogansville, LaGrange, and Troup County. And as a result, that's culminated into what I expect will be an annual event sponsored by the Chamber. The first will be September 10th, next month.
Absolutely. Well, you know, and again, I know that you all previously had the awards banquet where you recognize individuals, so now it's going to be kind of taken to another level, I guess you can say, having the Chamber to sponsor that. Talk about some of the awards that will be recognized.
There's different classifications of awards. There'll be a Public Safety Unit Award that'll recognize that group or team of individuals that responded in a way that distinguished themselves over this past year. There'll be the Public Safety Person of the Year Award, which traditionally may have been the Firefighter of the Year or the Communications Officer of the Year, the Police Officer of the Year, and that'll be combined into a Public Safety Award for that person for the year. Communications Person of the Year, which recognizes the important role that our communications officers at 911 play, from call taker to those that dispatch those calls for service. Life-Saving Award for an officer that, or public safety official that was involved in intervening in a way that saved that person's life. If that intervention had not occurred, that person would not have survived the incident. And then finally, a Medal of Valor Award, where officer or firefighter places themselves in harm's way in order to save or confront a situation that is a threat to others.
Absolutely.
And so those are the awards, and I'm looking forward to being able to participate in that in I guess 2 weeks.
Very good. And you know, such deserving awards for deserving individuals. And as you was talking there, Chief, I jotted down 911 caller, because as we all witnessed the recent incident that just happened where a young individual went into a school with kids, and the principal or one of the administrators there were talking with the 911 caller, was able to talk the young man out of really inflicting a lot of bodily harm to innocent kids there. That is so crucial and important. I want to come back to that in just a second, but before we run out of time, I want to talk a little about CALEA too, because this is something that the police department has been accredited for a number of years. Talk about that and the importance for that for this community.
Sure. We're accredited by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, and what CALEA does is it administers a body of standards that agencies voluntarily submit themselves to. There are about 464 standards, and we're required to comply with all those standards that are applicable to our particular law enforcement operation. For example, we don't run a jail or a holding facility, so those standards wouldn't apply to us. But we are responsible for, you know, an investigative component, for a report component, for a patrol. So those standards that apply to us, we're expected to comply with. We've been accredited since 1999, and every 3 years we submit ourselves to another assessment and another on-site visit by law enforcement practitioners from outside the state that come in and spend 3 or 4 days going through our records, interviewing members of the department, members of the community, and making a determination as to whether or not our agency, based on our written directives, training, the supervision components that make up the police department, whether our accountability systems and our analysis on trends and patterns, and finally, whether those policies are updated and fresh in a way that reflect contemporary case law and changing technology that we may incorporate in our operations. So that on-site for, I think, our 5th on-site visit scheduled for this coming spring. And of course, we're required continually to be doing things in a way that demonstrate compliance. But as we get closer to the assessment period, we'll start pulling examples of that compliance so that we can demonstrate it to the team that comes on board. Now, the benefit to the community is, in addition to having outside practitioners look at our operation and ensure that we do business in a way that meets contemporary standards, is the reduction in liability, so that our insurance doesn't go up. We don't have claims against the police department. We have relatively very few lawsuits or claims against the police department. And in those instances where we've had litigation, we've prevailed. So CALEA is an excellent management tool and leadership model that is something that no member of our department isn't affected by.
Absolutely, and the community benefits from that. I jotted down 464 standards that the department has to meet or exceed in order to receive this award. And you guys are going to be getting ready for the upcoming assessment here in the spring of this year or next year, correct?
Yes.
And the community will be involved in other participants. Chief, I'm going to tell you, I definitely want to get you back on because our time is about gone. Because I want to get you back on. We'll talk about some trends that are happening within the police department, some crime stats and things of that nature. But again, on a brief, take a couple of seconds if you don't mind, just to kind of comment, if you don't mind, about the incident that happened here recently in Atlanta, between the administrator and the 911 call, from your perspective.
I'm not sure which incident.
Well, the young man went into the school and the administrator was able to talk him out. Yeah, the one in Atlanta. In that particular incident, I think what it does is it highlights how important early intervention and recognition by school officials, and also the immediate contact of 911 and to law enforcement officials, which that could have played out to be a very deadly situation. As a result, didn't. As an aside, we annually do active shooter training at the police department so that if we're confronted with that sort of situation, we've got the training in place that allows the officers that are responding to address that critical issue immediately. Prior to the Columbine situation that occurred, over 10 years ago now, it used to be that you got a situation like that, you rendered it static so that you could have a conversation and negotiation with the person, and they would leave and nobody would get hurt. Well, in these active shooter situations, that is a scenario is not available, and so folks are now trained to immediately respond and engage that threat so that they can stop it. And in the case in Atlanta, it was in the Atlanta metro area. It was clear that early identification and communication on 911 certainly saved the day. Absolutely. Chief, I appreciate you doing that, kind of off the cuff there.
No,
just wanted to get your opinion on that, because we see that so prevalent now in our society. And like you said, early intervention, identification is going to be the key to help save innocent lives. And I want to thank you and all the men and women of the police department do to make sure that our community is a safe place to live. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Alton, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning with
Absolutely, and we definitely have to do it again.
All right, look forward to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Back for more City Week in just a moment. Welcome back, City Week, ladies and gentlemen. My guest now is the coordinator for the DUI Drug Court, Mr. Barry Davis. Barry, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to sit down with you as well here, and I was just learning a lot before we came on the air about the drug court here, some things that I didn't know. But before we get started with that, tell us a little bit about you, Barry, because this is your first time sitting down with me. So talk a little bit about Barry.
Well, I'm a retired state parole officer. I've been teaching DUI class and drug class for misdemeanor offenders. and this is started my 4th week as the coordinator. I work for Judge Little and Cheryl Hicks, who's our court administrator.
Okay, yeah, I know both of those persons very well. Well, talk about, you're the coordinator for the DUI drug court. Talk a little bit about what that is and how people can get involved with that. Not that they really want to become involved with it, but we have this as a resource in our community.
Right. Basically what we do is take repeat DUI offenders. They have to have 2 DUIs in 10 years or 3 in a lifetime. And we put them in a treatment-based program with judicial oversight. So Judge Little is very involved. We have a team involving solicitor, public defender, treatment, myself, case manager, Scott Smith, and we all meet once every 2 weeks and we discuss every case.
Okay.
So they also between Marquette Baker and Mark Akery, our solicitor and public defender, they decide who can be referred to us, and then we take over from there. And once they come to our court, then we're all involved with them, including Judge Little and everything. So what we're trying to do is get them to make life decisions without alcohol or drugs.
Right, and that's so important because I heard you mention about 2 DUIs or 3 in a lifetime, and people have to understand. A lot of times people, and talk a little bit, I'm going to get you to talk about the legal limits here for Georgia and also the nation in a moment, but there's various things that they have to do. You say, and it's a referral program. So talk about how someone is referred to you and what agencies can refer them to you all.
Well, obviously they've been arrested, so most everybody we have has been arrested either by State Patrol or Troup County Sheriff's Department or someone who's bound over from another court. LaGrange Municipal, Hogansville, or West Point. So once they come to us, they look at their record between Ms. Baker and Mr. Akery, and they refer them to us. We go do an initial to make sure that we can gain compliance from that person, that they'll say they do what we have to do. The legal limit for DUI in Georgia is .08, and that's 8% of your blood is alcohol. Mm-hmm. So obviously, DUI offenders affect us all.
That's right.
You know, when things happen and it's a DUI, we all feel real bad. But so what we're trying to do is take them off the road, get them back to a life balance, get their license reinstated, everything in a 12-month program to help them to make those choices without alcohol or drugs.
That's right. And talk a little bit about Barrick, because I know that you're housed there at the government center,
right?
2nd, 3rd floor. But there are, I guess, agencies in the community that individuals can go to, these participants can go to. Talk about that.
Right. We refer them to Counseling Services, who is our treatment provider. They go there for 2 meetings a week. They also have to attend 2 self-help groups like Stonewall. They can go to different churches for self-help. A lot of these have Celebrate Recovery or some type of alcohol and drug recovery programs. They have to attend 2 of those a week. So 4 days a week they have to be involved in something that's treatment oriented. They work, they do community service. Most of them have 240 hours of community service. They have to do some community service. Mm-hmm. Once they do all those things and we come to court, if they're doing everything they're having to do, we call them stars. And they get special recognition by Judge Little. And we try to get incentives from restaurants or other places to, Chick-fil-A gave us some sandwiches, Burger King's given us some Whopper meals, things like that. And makes a difference because they look forward to being recognized as a star. You know, so they have to do everything they have. They have to attend their group, have to attend self-help, have to attend community service. They also have to attend our courts every other week. So they have to meet with Judge Little every other week. So
there are various requirements that they have to aspire to achieve, accomplish before they can become that star. And then let me ask you about how do you see the self-esteem of that person change from when they come into the program, Barry, to the time that they perhaps exit out? Right.
Well, I did an exit interview last Friday on a guy who had 15 months in our program, and he told me that DUI drug court did something that 6 long-term treatments couldn't do, 6 or 7 incarcerations couldn't do. What it did was it reinforced the need to stay alcohol-free. Alcohol has been his problem all along. He just refused to see it. But he said he finally saw it, and he's living free. His family's proud of it, and he says that means more to him than anything. He said he can actually look at people in the eye and shake hands. And he's still participating in self-help now. He's one of our students who's graduated, just recently graduated. So
That's remarkable, isn't it?
it is. It's a big change.
Absolutely. You know, anytime that you can, because you made a point a moment ago, and as we all very well know, that, you know, when someone is out there driving under the influence, that's a great risk to not only themselves, but to anyone that individual may come in contact with. Now let's just talk about, because we realize that their self-esteem can be inflated, but let's say, for example, someone comes in the program, Barry, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. What are the repercussions of that?
Well, Judge Little has sanctions. If you don't comply, like they have to come in twice a week for drug tests. They miss a drug test, you know, they didn't call in or they didn't come in. There's sanctions. She could put them in jail for how many ever hours. She could give them more community service. She could make them write a letter to her regarding their substance abuse history, maybe up to 6, 7, 8 pages. So we start putting it on paper where they have to recognize that maybe alcohol or drugs has played a part in their lives that they don't want.
Absolutely, you know, and that is so important. Again, you see, I guess it's kind of just up front and close in your face there. Talk a little bit about some of your recidivism rates there for us, Barry, because
Okay.
I think you're pretty good at that as well.
Right. The court's been in operation since February 2004, so we're about to celebrate 10 years. We just recently did a record check. We've had 380 people be placed in the program, and 191 have graduated. So it's right at 50, a little over 50% to have graduated, which means that we have a tough program. We hold you accountable for what we ask you to do. That's an individual responsibility. It's not our responsibility. It's an individual. So, but we went back and we had 8.9% of recidivists regarding DUIs, and the average is 7 to 10 in the state that's been through DUI court. The average goes way up if they've just gone through treatment and no DUI court. It's about 25%, and nothing at all is about 35%. So we've saved lives.
That's right.
And we also saved the county and state money.
That's right.
From not being in jail. So it costs $45 a day at jail to be in our jail locally. That's a lot of money if you think
Right.
about doing 12 months there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then in most cases, the individual that's incarcerated then pay that. That comes from the taxpayer.
It comes from our money.
That's right, from the
You know,
taxpayer.
so, you know, we saved a lot of money. Mostly we're grant-funded court, so we have state and federal grants that we get that are funding our court for right now. But we are actually probably a cost benefit for the county.
Absolutely.
You know, we should be an asset
Right, right.
because we've taken away from the jail population.
That's right, right. Well, Barry, as we close out, if one last thing, there's an accomplished troop, I believe it was.
Accountability troop.
Accountability troop. Talk about that as we close out.
It's a nonprofit group that supports our accountability courts. We have 4 of them. We have a DUI drug court, we have a felony drug court, we have a mental health court, and we have a problem-solving court. So they help us by raising funds so we can have incentives. So felony drug court's fixing to have a graduation, so they'll help out with that expense. So like McDonald's could give accountability troop and take the tax credit, and then we could have that for our incentives for our participants.
Okay.
And it means a lot to them to receive a free chicken sandwich.
Absolutely.
And recognition from the judge that the judge got to hand that to them.
Well, you know, it's a great thing to be able to take these individuals and again to inflate their self-esteem, get them off of the streets, so that they're not a liability to you and I and other citizens. So you guys are doing a wonderful job there, Barry. I want to thank you for coming on the show and just sharing this information with us today.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back for more City Week in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining for City Week this week. My guests have been the Chief of Public Safety, Lou Deckmar, as he talked about the awards program that is being sponsored by the LaGrange Troop Chamber of Commerce and also the accreditation through CALEA. He also talked about some other upcoming events that will be taking place. Also, my second guest was Barry Davis, the coordinator of the DUI Drug Court, as he talked about the recidivism rate for the participants that participate in the schools and how their self-esteems are raised. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed those interviews, and if always, I want to invite you back for more of City Week.